everybody, it's Sarah, and before we get into today's video, which is going to be my mid-month wrap-up, let's talk very quickly about a few things. Let's clear up a few things. First of all, I am not at home, as you might realize. I am back at my mom's place, as I was at the beginning of like the whole corona situation in March and April. And the reason why I'm here is because I am currently finishing up my bachelor paper for anthropology, and yeah, I just find that I generally tend to work better here, especially on stressful projects and when I'm in the like final stages of a project, because it's just like there's this looming presence over me telling me to just get back to writing and to stop procrastinating, and so I tend to work better and tend to be less stressed. Especially with academic like papers and stuff, I really like having someone who usually is my mom, because she has a lot of experience with academic works, just kind of who can give me feedback right away, and that's just kind of useful in the final stages of an academic paper like a bachelor paper. So that's what the different background is about. Also, I am very sorry if the angle seems very weird. I forgot my tripod at home, so you're currently perched on a bunch of books. And because I'm filming on my phone, that's always kind of questionable how the angle looks. And then also in connection to my bachelor paper, I just wanted to announce very quickly that I will reduce my 3 uploads a week to 2 a week, at least until I'm finished with my bachelor paper, because that's just kind of my priority right now, to finish with my bachelor paper, and I just found that it stresses me out unnecessarily if I feel like I have to upload 3 times a week. So now, at least until the end of September, you will get 2 uploads a week, 1 on Thursday, 1 on Sunday, and both at 5 p.m. Central European time, so my time. And after September I'll kind of see, because I will be starting uni again, and I'm not sure yet how it looks with corona, if I can actually go to uni or not, if I will still be at home, because kind of the infection rate looks worse right now, so it's kind of all up in the air still. But it's possible that I will be properly back at uni come October, and if that happens, then I will be studying in my bachelor for economy still, and I will also start my master's in anthropology, so we'll see how much stress that puts on me and whether or not I'll get back to 3 videos a week or if I'll stay with 2. And also, because of my bachelor paper stress, I decided to not put on makeup today because I was lazy. But anyway, now that we have all of that out of the way, let's get into this video and let's talk about which books I have read so far in September. We have September. What books I've read so far in September. By the way, I don't think that the last time I was here and filming you could properly see everything in the background. I think you could pretty much only see this shelf. But if you were ever wondering where I got my love from books from, it's pretty obvious. Like, these shelves are all full of non-fiction, to be fair. They're my mom's. This shelf up here is my mom's. Then there's on this side over here, like on this side, there's another 2 or 3 shelves like that, full of non-fiction, and basically these 3 and 1 more shelf down here are the only books that I still have at my mom's. So yeah, she has a lot of books, and that's not all the fiction she has. It's like up there in the hallway, which you can't see obviously, there's like a shelf going around the ceiling, and then obviously she also has huge shelves in her room. But yeah, I grew up surrounded by books. So let's get into it. What did I read in September so far? Let's start with the books I'm currently reading. Fun fact, I find that I currently read more than I usually do because I try to not go onto YouTube, because I kind of lose myself in YouTube more than in reading. And in reading I can kind of take breaks and say, okay, I'll read 1 chapter as a break and then I'll continue writing. But with YouTube, like, the next video is too easy to like click on and stuff, so I actually read a lot right now. But the first book I'm currently reading is The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien. It's the third book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Well, if you count them as 3 books, which obviously they weren't intended as. I'm like 2/3 through. That was my bookmark. I'm about 2/3 through the book. If you have read it, I'm like done now with the fellowship part, and I read 1 chapter of the Frodo and Sam part, and I really enjoy it so far. I mean, I gotta say, maybe it's nostalgia because I watched them so often already. I mean, I prefer the films a little bit, but I still really love Tolkien's writing. It's just so epic. It's epic in a way that epic fantasy usually isn't today, and I absolutely love that, and I'm so excited to, for the Tolkien along, then right away reread the entire series just in one like go, and to properly read it, because I obviously took big breaks in between the books. I thought maybe after I finish this, before I start rereading the first book, to read the Silmarillion, but it kind of depends again on whether or not I have the time, but I'm really enjoying it, and I absolutely love the German translation. Like, this is probably the only fantasy book that I have ever read that I really enjoy in German, because the German translation is amazing. And by the way, Tolkien actually thought that the German translation improved a bit on some stuff, but well, I'll get more into that maybe if I talk about it in my final wrap-up of the month. Then I am about halfway through The Path of Daggers by Robert Jordan, which is book 8 in the Wheel of Time series. This just kind of is the same so far as all Wheel of Time books. I'm enjoying it well enough, but like not too much. I'm not loving it, I'm just enjoying it. I'm about 1/3 of the way into The Empire of Ashes by Anthony Ryan, which is the 3rd book in the Draconis Memoria series, and this is just an interesting series. I mainly read it because I really love the setting, because I gotta be honest, this is another one of those series where I just spend way too much time in between books, and I know fuck all about the characters. I can barely remember who any of the side characters are. I can barely remember why some of the characters are on certain quests, but it's just a really cool steampunk setting with dragons, so that's enough to get me through the book. And then the last book I'm currently reading is The Wolf of Oranjero by K.S. Veloso, and I am like between halfway and 2/3 into the book. This I'm also really enjoying. I was kind of hesitant when I started the book because the main character really didn't seem like the character that I would expect from a series called The Chronicles of the Bitch Queen. But I mean, she still isn't a bitch, to be honest, but I really enjoy her development, and I think I got the feeling that this first book kind of shows us how she turns into this ruthless bitch that she already has the outward appearance of. I forgot what the word is. Like the bitch that she's already rumored to be, but she's not actually, and she kind of turns into that more and more. And I'm really enjoying it, and I'm probably going to be finishing it in the next 2 or 3 days. So now let's go to the 5 books that are already finished, as always going by star ranking and starting with the one that I rated lowest. And I'll start with one actually that I didn't give a rating, and that is Hamlet by Shakespeare. And the reason why I didn't give this a rating is the same reason why I didn't give Dr. Faustus by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe a rating. I kind of feel it's unfair to give plays a rating because they're not my preferred mode of reading things, and I also think that especially with plays there's so much difference in who puts on a play and if you can see it live compared to just reading it. However, I did overall really enjoy it. Hamlet is now the first Shakespeare play that I read, and just even in general, it kind of has a soft spot for me because I don't know if I ever talked about that, but I was in a high school where we did a lot of plays and we had like 1 play a year that we put on. And in our 3rd year of high school, when I was 17 or so, we had this project where we put on 5 shortened to 20 minutes shortened versions of Shakespeare's plays. And one of those plays was Hamlet, and I played Hamlet. And so, of course, Hamlet has like a soft spot in my heart, and I already knew what it was about. But it's still nice to finally have read it and to kind of remember some of the lines that I said, because I can still remember a lot of it. Next, continuing on, the next book that I finished that I gave a lower rating is Mrs. Stellaway by Virginia Woolf, and I gave this a 2.5 star rating, although that's still kind of questionable to me, because the thing is, this entire book is written in stream of consciousness. Stream of consciousness? I don't know. And I've read one book written in that style so far, that was back in July, that was Marina. And I tend to find the writing style very, very confusing. With Marina, at least you just had one character that you were following. But with Mrs. Stellaway, by the way, it's the story of English, London, higher class, and Mrs. Stellaway is like having this soiree or something. I don't know. She's inviting a bunch of people. And it just feels like you constantly jump from perspective to perspective, and like one sentence you're in this person's perspective, and in the second half of the same sentence suddenly you're in the perspective of a completely different person. And that first of all confused me a lot. I felt like I didn't really get anything of the plot of what little there was, and I also didn't feel like any of the social commentary really came through. But I don't want to have this as a definitive rating of the book. I maybe want to go a little bit more into like analyses of Mrs. Stellaway and see what I think after that. But yeah, stream of consciousness, I don't know which one it is. It's not like my general writing style, because especially with classics, I've talked about that a lot, I kind of need it in like short increments to really get it, because after like 30 pages or so I start skim reading a lot, and with fantasy that generally doesn't matter, but with classics there's often a lot that gets lost. However, if you have stream of conscious style writing, you don't have chapters. Mrs. Stellaway doesn't have chapters. You don't have like points in the book where you can stop and where you can be, okay, I'll pick this up again tomorrow when I'm all fresh and when I can like concentrate on it again. And so you're either left having to stop somewhere in the middle and then having no clue what happened beforehand, or you have to read the whole thing in one go. And so yeah, that was kind of not something I overly enjoyed. Next, I finally finished Everfair by Nisi Shawl, and I'm happy I finished it. I'm happy that I didn't decide to DNF it. This is the story of what would happen if a bunch of people decided to buy land off of King Leopold II of Belgium in the Congo, and to like build this colony, build this kind of safe haven for the people persecuted and prosecuted by the colonists. And it's very interesting. It's like got a lot of different perspectives, but I have to say I still ended up giving it 3 stars. Maybe even 2.5 stars. I don't know. Because the thing that was very interesting to me were the themes. Because you had those very different perspectives of the book. You have a couple of white people who kind of are the founders of this country, but then you also of course have a lot of black perspectives that are the people that find safe haven in this new country and the people who kind of build up this new country. Then you also have immigrants, some East Asian immigrants, for example. I think it was East Asian. You also have a few people who are like black people coming from America, where sorry, I don't know shit about American history, but I think the beginning of the book is like shortly after, not right after, but like shortly after the Civil War, the American Civil War. So you have those perspectives, those very Christian black people coming over, kind of clashing with the black people of the Congo who still have very traditional religions, or traditional to the Congo religions. You also have some people who like have mixed ancestry, and so it's very interesting because you have a lot of different perspectives coming together. And you have the white people who very much have good intentions, but very much are those characters with a white savior complex who see themselves as the founders of this new country, even though it's a country that was built for people fleeing from Leopold II to find refuge. You also have a very long timeline. It's like from colonization then until after the First World War sometime. You have discussions about mixed relationships, where you have a relationship between a white character and a character who has mixed ancestry, and the white character constantly kind of has microaggressions without noticing towards that character with mixed ancestry, because she's lamenting that her son married a black woman and oh my god, what about the children, they will be mixed, and so on. And so there's a lot of very interesting discussions going on that I absolutely loved. But ultimately, I didn't like the writing style, like, at all. And usually I'm all for, like, even if a writing style isn't for me particularly, I can usually still see like positives in the writing style, why this specific writing style was used to tell that story. However, in this case, there were two problems. First of all, there were way too many POV characters. We had like, I don't know, not even 400 pages, and there were probably 15 POV characters that also sometimes changed like a lot. Maybe it was even 20. So you didn't get to spend a lot of time with each of the characters. Of course, there were some characters who got more POV chapters than others, but generally I found that we jumped too quickly to really care or to really connect to any of the characters, which in this case kind of was a problem for me. And the reason why it also felt like we jumped so much was that we did not get long chapters. And now I'm generally a fan of shorter chapters. I prefer like 10 to 20 page chapters more to like 40-50 page chapters, because it just makes reading quicker. But in this book the chapters were too short. They were like 2 to 3 to maybe a maximum of 10 pages long. That just meant that we didn't get to spend a lot of time with one character at once. And that just also made me have a problem with connecting to the characters. And then the second thing that I found was a problem is that especially at the beginning it took really long to really get what was going on and to really get into the story, because not a lot of things were explained. You're kind of pushed straight into the story, and they're talking about this colony, but it's not really explained what this colony is supposed to be at any point. I had to go back to the synopsis, actually not the synopsis at the back of the book, but like often there's also more like detailed synopsis on the first page of the book. So I had to go back to that to kind of find out what the fuck was going on, to kind of get a little bit of a grip of the story. And then also between the chapters, which remember were very short and we didn't get a lot of information in those chapters, one chapter most of the time wasn't set in the same year even as the next chapter. And also most of the time not set in the same place. So you were just frequently and quickly jumping between places and between years of time. So it wasn't like a continuous plot that was going on, but you just had like snapshots. And not the type of snapshots where you then like have the little booklet that you can fly through and it makes like one film type thing, but just random snapshots. And so that was just a bummer to me, and the reason why ultimately I ended up really not enjoying the book, kind of, even though a lot of the themes that were talked about were very interesting to me. Does it make sense? I hope that makes sense. So lastly, I have two books that are actually in no particular order. I gave both of them 5 stars, and I think this is so far the first month this year that I gave 2 books 5 stars. I think I have a total of 7 5-star books so far this year. But anyway, let me go with the first one that I read, and that is Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This was the September book club pick for my book club of Queens, Witches and Valkyries, in which we read one fantasy book per month that is written by a woman. Adult fantasy, I should say. And like mostly high fantasy, although this specifically isn't high fantasy. And I will not talk too long about it because I do intend to have a review up at the end of the month. I mean, I don't intend, I will have one up because I have already filmed it and I haven't edited it yet, I think. But anyway, this is a Mayan mythology inspired story where you follow a young girl, or like a young woman, called Cassiopeia, who accidentally frees the Mayan god of death. Because of that, she kind of inadvertently has struck a deal with him and now has to help him regain his throne, because like years ago and decades ago he was betrayed by his brother and now he wants his throne back. I absolutely love this book. I love the writing. I love this, or even less the writing, I love the storytelling. It just really has this feeling of a fairy tale, and Silvia Moreno Garcia plays a lot with like tropes, but in a very conscious way, and I absolutely love that. I love nothing more than when writers are aware of tropes and kind of consciously use them to enhance their stories. It's just beautiful. Also, the relationship between Hun Kame, and who is the death god, and Cassiopeia, who is our main character, was absolutely beautiful, and the development of the relationship is just amazing, and you will see my full thoughts at the end of the month. And then the second 5-star book was Orphea by Joanne M. Harris, for which I also have a review, which I already uploaded, so I will leave the link down below and up there. And Orphea is also a retelling. We can kind of see a pattern in my 5-star reads, I think. But Orphea is an Orpheus retelling. However, it's not the retelling of a man going into death to get his wife back or his lover back, but it's the story of a mother whose daughter has been stolen by death, and so she goes into death to get her back. And there's a lot of exploration of grief, of motherhood, of sacrifice, and I absolutely love the book. And if you want to know more of my thoughts, go watch my review, which actually was more of a gush because I love this book so much. It's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. But that was it for the books that I have read so far this month. Again, actually my reading was quite alright, considering I'm also working on my bachelor paper right now. I'm also really excited because I got the the notification today from my bookstore that my copy of The Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas has finally arrived, so I can finally read it, and yeah, very excited about that. So that was it for this video. If you enjoyed it, maybe think about giving me a thumbs up and also maybe subscribing. Tell me in the comments down below if you have read any of the books that I have read and what your thoughts were on them and how your reading is going so far this month. All the links to my social media are in the description box down below, so go and check those out. Also, all the links to my book club, of course, are in the description box down below, so go and check those out as well. And I hope I'll see you soon. Bye!